Live from Portland, Oregon, it's Senator Sanders' presidential announcement.
Good afternoon, Portland. I am former representative of District 6, David Soriano Garcia. It is amazing to see everyone together in support of one candidate. We have seen Robert in his journey to this point. I helped to confirm him as vice president, and that for me was one of my favorite votes in my term in Congress. I am proud to see him elected and appointed to a variety of offices. I am proud to endorse him for president. Now, the following person has served along with me and Robert, and I'm very grateful to have served with them. I introduce to you Representative of District 2, Harry L. Crosby.
Now announcing Harry L. Crosby. Audience, please clap.
Let's go, Harry!
Yeah, Harry!
Yeah, Harry!
Oh,
Harry!
I can't wait. I can't wait till
Harry!
he speaks.
Harry!
He's going to speak soon, and I'm looking forward to it.
Harry L. Crosby has suffered a fall in the bathroom. He will be out on the stage soon. Thank you.
It won't let him unmute.
That's strange.
Okay, now welcoming Epideli.
Yeah.
It appears that Epideli has also suffered a
Hello,
fall
all
in the
of you.
bathroom.
It is a blessing to be here on the stage with all of you. First, I would like to say it is a privilege to be here with my friends and colleagues. Today, as I stand on this stage, I know that there is a bright future ahead for America. There's one person I know that can bring us to that future. That person is a great friend of mine. His name's Robert Sanders. Robert is a fighter for the people in America. He has an extensive plan for our nation, and I'm honored to introduce the next President of the United States, Robert Sanders.
Put your hands together for the next President of the United States of America, Senator Robert Sanders!
Yeah!
Good afternoon, Portland. Thank you, Epideli, for those kind words, and for everyone else who spoke today. Throughout my campaign, I have talked about fundamentally changing the way MEC operates. We have let ourselves create an establishment that essentially controls what happens in MEC. They hold so much influence and power over the people in MEC that they can get elected without challenge, and help elect anyone they want. Their power has caused members of other parties to join the winning party, because they think it will help them get reelected. But ultimately, what this does is lead to one-party rule. Don't get me wrong, none of these people are bad people. They just want to be elected like everyone else. But they are going unchecked. This campaign isn't going to be about trashing other people. This campaign is going to be about having a president who can use his power to reduce the amount of influence held by these people. This campaign is about having a president who listens to both sides and is dedicated to the community 24/7. After having served in both houses of Congress, I am deeply disappointed with the way it operates and its interactions with the other branches. I think most of us are. If this community is to continue, we have to be willing to change the way it works from time to time. Change can be scary. I know that more than anyone. But humans are designed to like comfort. But change is an essential piece of life. Many people think that the toxicity in the community will never go away, that we can never change it. But many are also not willing to try. If we had a president who actually brought this subject up on the regular, met with members of Congress on both sides and private citizens throughout the community, we could find a solution to this terrible issue. Our country is also facing many problems. Millions are in poverty and unable to get out. Our kids in the inner cities are being funneled into prisons and a life of crime. Our democracy is not working as efficiently as it could. Our policing system is corrupt, and our foreign policy in many respects is destabilizing the world. We have many problems that we need to address, and we need a president that has clear plans on how and what he will accomplish. That is why I have decided to continue my campaign for President of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Yeah!
Woo!
Thank you. Thank you.
Woo!
This campaign wasn't about being loyal to any party. This campaign was about truly changing this country and this community. I have decided to continue this movement, not in spite of anyone, but because I believe I am the most prepared person to fundamentally change this community. Throughout my career, I have been consistent with my principles and have fought hard to make Congress more efficient. I've always fought to improve the quality of life for our average citizen. I've had an extremely fortunate life. I was able to go from being homeless to being in deep poverty as a child, and then in the working class, working my way up the political ladder. First as a representative, then being appointed as vice president to one of the best presidents of our time, President Quentin Lewis, and now serving District 2 as their senator. But I have never forgotten where I came from. My childhood shaped who I am and how I make my decisions. I will never put the priorities of corporations or big business over the needs of the working class. I will never become subservient to the establishment. This administration will be one of lifting up people who have been pushed down for so long. I will work with new members, helping them to understand the complexities of the community. I will promote competition and work with both parties to make sure that they can actually accomplish things for their constituents and for their party. I was saddened to hear that the GOP leadership hasn't been involved in the legislative process in past administrations, and I have pledged to them that I will bring everyone into the process, allowing for all sides to be heard and compromise to be reached. We can work with both sides to accomplish policies like the universal basic income, like criminal justice reform, education reform, my foreign policy initiative, and making Congress a more efficient place. These ideas and more are supported by both sides of the political spectrum, and if we shunned one side from giving their opinion, we wouldn't have the best legislation being put out of the Congress that we could have. Unfortunately, my running mate through the primary process, Representative Ben McKay, has dropped from the ticket because of loyalty to the Democratic Party. We left on good terms, and I look forward to seeing what he does next. He has great potential, and I will surely go down as one of the best legislators in MEC history. This, however, has left an open spot on the campaign, and I think I have found the best person for that spot. When I was choosing a new running mate, I had a lot to consider. Who would be loyal to the fight? Who was ready to lead the Senate and represent the United States on a world stage? I had to pick someone who knew the community and was ready to work with me 24/7 to fix it. After having many late-night calls about policy, philosophy, the community, and how to fix it, I have full confidence in the next Vice President of the United States, Senator Tim Taft.
Yeah!
Woo!
He's so sexy.
Tim and I don't agree on everything.
Woo!
Tim and I don't agree on everything. But we agree that this community needs strong leaders willing to take on the extreme challenges facing us ahead. This campaign is a movement for everyone. And when you make your decision this Friday, I ask you to look past the party next to the name on the ballot and look at the policies of the person and their vision for the future of this community and this country. I believe that my vision is the boldest and takes the furthest steps forward. America, You have a hard decision to make this election day, and I hope that you will all vote your conscience and vote for who will truly bring you the change you've been craving for so long. Thank you for joining me on this journey. We will bring this movement across this country and straight to the White House. Thank you, Portland. Let's win this thing for the people.
Woo! 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 Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, the next Vice President, Senator Tim Taft.
Thank you. Thank you, Portland.
Yeah!
Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Portland. It is great to be back on the West Coast once again. You know, I don't think I could have put any of what I want to say into better words than Senator Sanders just did. We have serious problems in this community. Partisanship has gone beyond mere competition. Thank you. The partisanship has gone beyond mere. Yes, I love you too. The partisanship has gone beyond mere competition. It has become toxic. Just as Senator Sanders pointed out, there are members within this community who are feeling compelled to join one party. All right, you. Whether or not it represents their actual ideology, only because they feel it is the only way to get elected. When partisanship reaches such levels as this, it is not only right for us to make amends, but it is an obligation. There is no man better for this role than Senator Robert Sanders, and he has proved this. Senator Sanders has been one of the most bipartisan members of Congress since the first day I met him in the House of Representatives. Senator Sanders has been a member who has reached out to me on multiple occasions to get my input and to discuss matters of political importance to both of us in a civil, respectful manner. I have no doubt that if elected president, Senator Sanders will be a president who works for the people. Not Republicans, not Democrats, the people. In the words of my best friend and your former vice president, Jonathan Gathers, politics are about people. It's about people working to represent people and to help people. They're not supposed to further their own agenda or their party's agenda. Once you become president or you're elected to any office, you can no longer see dividing lines. We're no longer Democrats or Republicans or independents. We're Americans, and our officials have to provide for everyone the same. It is my firm belief that in this era of MEC, we need a candidate to boldly proclaim policy that works for all Americans. We need a president who is willing to see across the aisle on the tough issues that we face. We need a president who will regularly consult members of all political affiliations and make sure that they are heard. I truly believe that this man is Robert Sanders. It is my true honor to run alongside Robert. And even if we do not succeed, I am forever proud of this campaign, and I forever will be. I look forward to the coming weeks, and I hope and pray that the people of the United States will join this movement to bring representation of all Americans back to Washington. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you, Portland.
See Kyle.
Yay, Tim!
Hail Robert
See Kyle.
Hail
See Kyle. See Kyle. See Kyle.
Cigar!
USA, born in the
I
USA!
can't understand you. Go back to your home country.
Senator Sanders and Senator Taft will be taking questions from the audience now.
Robert Sanders,
Yes.
you do recognize that this UBI or Universal Basic Income would pretty much just give lazy people free money and make America a socialist dictatorship like Venezuela.
I'm sorry, sir, but that's not true. A
Fox
UBI.
News says it is true, communist.
It's not true. UBI it addresses the problem of automation as that issue increases throughout our country. I mean, our economy and the labor force is going to be moving towards automation, and we as a government have to be putting forth solutions to fix that. I believe the UBI is the best way to fix that. A UBI is a bipartisan idea with support from all over the political spectrum. Martin Luther King supported it. A founding father, Thomas Paine, said that we eventually have to get to that point. And even a notable libertarian economist, Milton Friedman, had said that we should replace the rag bag of specific welfare programs with a single comprehensive program of income supplements in cash. Finding an issue that a democratic socialist like Bernie Sanders and the founder of Austrian economics, Friedrich Hayek, can agree on can seem impossible on the surface, but it really is. And with a president who's actually able to work for compromise and change and bipartisanship, this is something that we can accomplish. A UBI would lift more than 40 million Americans out of poverty. It would increase the economy by $2.5 trillion and increase the labor force by 4.5 to 4.7 million people. But most importantly, it means that people will have the opportunity to follow their dreams, to start a business, to give their children quality education, or go back to school to complete their education to work in the 21st century economy. A UBI is something that we need to do to be able to address the level of poverty and income inequality in this country. And I will be working as hard as I can to get that passed as president.
Mr. Sanders?
Yep.
I have a question. On the UBI, do you plan to put that on top of the existing welfare and Medicare and Medicaid programs along with other social services? Or do you plan... Excuse me, sir, I'm asking a question. Thank you. Or do you plan to phase out or abolish those other programs in turn for a UBI?
The ultimate goal would be phase out those programs and allow for people to have that simple, unbureaucratic UBI. We cannot do this rashly, though. I'm not going to do it instantly. And the plan with the UBI will come with a plan to, over a period of time, reduce the amount of money that goes into these programs, eventually getting rid of them. Yes.
All right, well, a follow-up question. How long do you think that will take? And do you think that there will be a fair way to implement this, as Social Security and Medicare will be bankrupt by 2032 and will most likely not be able to return everybody's money that they have put into the programs?
Well, we are in a surplus right now in the MEC, and we have a budget that can afford to spend on those programs. But yes, I can't give you specifics on the period of time. That's something that'll be discussed by both party leaderships. I know that the more liberal side of the Congress will probably push for a longer term period of time for that, and the more conservative side of Congress will push for a shorter period of time and have that transition happen more quickly. I support having that transition happen more slowly and incrementally. I believe that these programs provide an economic security to many Americans that needs to stay in place while we transition over to a solely UBI system. I mean, if I had to put a number off the top of my head, I'd say probably 10 to 15 years.
Would the UBI phase from bottom to top consistent with this program, or would it be straight the $1,000 consistently, or will the money increase as the programs fade out?
The money would increase as the programs fade out.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Okay, Mr. Sanders.
Yes.
So what about that thing I've heard you speaking, that you've said that you would kill the what about those people who do not like universal basic income? What do you have to say to them who do not support it? Could you meet them with a compromise?
Well, I think that after explaining this issue in the Oval Office and discussing it with both sides of Congress, I mean, I don't expect that this policy will pass unanimously, and it's about getting enough votes for this policy to pass. But I believe that we can ultimately switch some people that don't believe in a UBI after they are presented with all the facts, and after we can have a extensive, in-depth conversation on the implications of the UBI and how we would implement that.
Any last minute questions?
Hey,
Mr.
thank you. I'm sorry.
Mr. Sanders, I have another question.
Yes.
What is your stance on criminal justice reform, and do you support the legalization of drugs, or just the decriminalization, or do you wish to continue the current laws that we have set in place?
Well, I certainly won't be continuing the current laws we have in place. Many of the laws we have in place right now are racist laws designed to put people in the inner city in jail and to increase the amount of people in jail to continue to fund the prison industrial complex. My criminal justice reform involves incrementally expunging the records of nonviolent offenders and finding a different alternative of punishment for them, whether that be house arrest or community service. We will enact large police reform, integrating the police back into the community, the demilitarization of the police, and making the police more of a community entity than an outside force that is, in many respects, just there to bully many of the people in these inner cities and low-income communities across this country. We will also look into private prisons and the impact that they've had on society. I believe that is mostly negative, and that we should have only public prisons that aren't profiting off the backs of people's injustices and crimes, because that only incentivizes police to put those people in jail because of the amount of money that these private prisons have. There are a lot of issues that we need to address with criminal justice reform, and I support looking into decriminalizing drugs. I can promise that we will have an updated Controlled Substance Act of 2019 that will that will take into account which drugs are healthy, which drugs are healthier than normal, which drugs are not so healthy, and we will have, using the information that we have now, we'll have a controlled substance list that actually represents what these drugs truly do, instead of a controlled substance list built in the 1970s where they had very little facts about what these drugs actually do to the human body.
Okay.
Mind.
All right. Well, thank
So
you,
I
Mr.
have a
Sanders.
question.
One last question. Why do you believe that someone who is called such a left-leaning figure as yourself was able to get the endorsement earlier today of the Republican Party for president, especially while it's headed by who some name Mr. Conservative as their chairman?
Well, I think that there is a perception of me in this community simply because of my profile picture that I am some kind of far leftist candidate. When I'm more of a left-leaning libertarian, I guess I would call myself. There are many points of disagreement with the GOP, and I think that the GOP had some issues with Ethan Davis that affected their vote, but I don't think that played as big a role as people are saying that played. I think ultimately the GOP decided to endorse me because when they look at my policies and my vision for the future, they see that it's the best out there, and that it's the most clear and the most extensive, and I am the most prepared candidate to go on and serve the next 6 weeks as your president, to bring back bipartisanship and decrease the amount of toxicity in the community. And I think ultimately the people will realize that, and that's why I believe, and I think Senator Taft believes, that we will win this election. But I would like to say that the attacks against Ethan Davis are unwarranted. Ethan Davis has done nothing wrong. He is simply trying to win like anyone else has. Do I disagree with some of the decisions, some of the political decisions he's made, or some of his policies? Absolutely. And we'll get to that in the debates, where we can have a one-on-one discussion about the issues and our vision for the future. But we must not attack the candidate that we don't agree with simply because we think that he may have done something wrong. I mean, Ethan Davis is a good guy. He would make a fine president, but I don't believe that he's what this community or this country needs at this moment in time. And that's why the GOP endorsed me.
Cool. Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
So you've called yourself anti-establishment. Do you plan to go out and purposely go against the establishment and help anti-establishment candidates?
Well, I don't personally plan to attack any of the establishment. I mean, the people in this so-called establishment are good people, and they're just trying to win again, like anyone else. But the way in which they're trying to win, I think, is just not the way that the community should be operating. They're trying to create a big tent party that controls MEC, and trying to make one party rule while the GOP kind of withers out and dies as they bring members over. I will not specifically go out and support members who are, quote, anti-establishment simply because they're running against somebody who's establishment. And I'm not saying I won't endorse establishment candidates. What I'm saying is, and what the message of this campaign is that we have to have a president who is speaking about the issues and telling people about the influence that these people have. If people are aware of this and are actually willing to take matters into their own hands, then I think that we can actually rejuvenate the opposition party and make MEC a more competitive a place where we role play politics and the fight for Congress each election. And I don't think each election should be a landslide election, but I will not go out and support specifically GOP or Democratic candidates simply because they're anti-establishment.
All right, one more question.
Can you clarify the
Mr.
statement that
Sanders?
earlier that you said that you wanted to gas all Jews?
I'm sorry, what?
Clarify the statement that you said you wanted to gas all Jews.
I didn't say that.
I was just kidding, but seriously, what do you foresee? Let's see. Can you define establishment per se?
Well, I think the establishment in MEC is far different from the real life establishment that we have in our government, in the United States government in real life. They are not malicious in their intent. They are not going out to destroy people. They are just again trying to win. But I think that establishment in this community is if somebody can go to essentially anybody in the community and sway their vote without that person taking into consideration the other person's views or morals, or where we have a tight-knit group of friends who essentially control the community. I think that's what we call establishment. And that's always changing. People are always leaving that and joining that. It's not a set group of people. And again, these people are not bad people, but we have to be fighting against that and creating a community in which those people can have their friend group and there can be an establishment, but the establishment isn't what controls this community. The people are what control this community. And if we can give the power, if we can give the power of choosing the candidates back to the people, and try to reduce the power that these so-called friendships have over the rest of the community, then we can make this community great. And that's what I mean by establishment, and that's why I'm anti-establishment.
One more question.
Mr. Sanders, to what extent do you plan to work with the GOP, especially after the extension of the alienation of the party by the Brown administration?
Well, as I've stated in my platform and in my speech, we're going to be working with both sides. Both sides are going to be very much involved in the legislative process and decisions made by the administration that affect congressional matters or domestic issues. I think Congress needs to be more informed on what goes on in the executive branch, and that means that both sides, not just the party that, or not just the people that lean towards my ideas or would only support my policies. I believe that my policies, yes, they are left leaning, but with the right amount of explanation, I can get the GOP to support that. And to get the GOP to support that, they must be involved in the weekly or daily Oval Office meetings that happen. So the GOP are going to be very much involved in the administration and in the legislative process to make sure that we can push out the best legislation that we can creating the best compromise between the two opposing ideologies.
All right, we could do some closing statements now, Robert.
Well, as I've stated in my speech and before, I wasn't planning on doing a closing statement, so sorry if this is a little scattered. But this is an anti-establishment a campaign that's committed to fundamentally changing this community. And Senator Taft and I are prepared to be dedicated to this community 24/7 over the 6 weeks that we are in the Oval Office. We will never stop calling each other, coming up with new pieces of legislation on top of the 32 we already have planned, making sure that the deals we make with foreign governments and the peace that we are trying to create throughout the world actually happens requires strong, hard work, and it's going to require arguments between the cabinet, and it's going to be a hard and long process. But if we can work together, if we can grow the grassroots movement of not only legislators but the people in this campaign and beyond the campaign, then we can win the White House in the general election, but we can also change this community with the many pieces of legislation that I have planned for it. I'm ready and experienced enough to serve as your president, and I hope come May 24th that you vote not based on party, but based on policy and the vision that the candidate has for the future of this community. Again, I believe I have the boldest vision for the future of this community. I believe that Senator Taft is the best person to help me lead that vision and lead the Senate as the vice president. I hope that you will give an objective look to this campaign, look past transgressions, past arguments that we may have had with each other, and vote for the person who is really prepared to be president of the United States. Thank you for coming out today. Senator Taft, you want to say a few words?
Yes, I'd just like to say, first of all, I'll say I'm kind of winging this too. I didn't have a prepared close statement, but I just like to say thank you all for coming out here today. It's a great day in Portland, I think, and I think today we heard a message about not just the future of the country, but the future of this community itself. And we've heard so much substance about what we want to plan for the future of America. And I'd like to just say we also have revisions, we all have policy proposals. We have a plan to revise the community itself. That is a better community in the future, just as this will be a better country. And I don't think there's anybody coming into this race more prepared than Robert Sanders. Senator Sanders and I have, like he said, spent long times talking on calls and in chats about different policy proposals. We've changed each other's minds on issues before that we've spoken. But the one thing that we have to promote in this community, if we want to see a community that survives the future, survives the partisanship that will always be here to some degree, which is just how things are with politics. If we're to survive this, we need to maintain a level of civility, and I don't think anybody has shown a better degree of this than Senator Robert Sanders. I definitely think, I'd definitely like to say though about former Senator Ethan Davis that I harbor no animosity towards him, and what my party said about him is not something I endorse. I think he is a great man, and just like Senator Sanders said, he would make a great president. I just think at this moment in time, we need to elect a candidate who is prepared for this office, who is not only prepared but is willing to work in all aspects across the political aisle and to work hard to make this community better. And I just think there's nobody more prepared for this task than Senator Robert Sanders. Thank you all, and God bless.
All right, thank you, Portland, Oregon. I'm Chris Hayes with ONN News,
Spring
and we're out.
time for Hitler and Germany.
Yay.
Deutschland is happy and gay.
We're
Marching a faster pace.
Look out, here comes